tutorial, I thought we would do something a bit different and create some kind of Christmas light assets, and you can see the kind of sway in the wind as you, in the sea. Now, this is not the best example, and it could look better, and you might want a few different types, because I just rotated a couple of these, try and make it look better, which doesn't look the best. But with a bit more tweaking, you could have some really nice lights, or if you just had them kind of pull down like gravity was pulling them and go back up, it would probably look a bit nicer. So there's lots of different ways you can do this, but let's go ahead and get straight into it and delete all of this. And we're going to add a cube, and we're going to go ahead and scale this down. We're going to go ahead and scale this across on the Y axis. So now it's scaled out on the Y. We're going to go apply scale, so Control A, scale, and there we go. So just go ahead and delete these ends, because you don't need those. So the way we can do this is we can also create our little Christmas lights as well. So let's go ahead and grab these, and we can change it to 16 or down, so you get a nice kind of even but small amount. And we're going to go ahead and go into edit mode and go to vertex mode, scale this down, and then we're going to extrude it. Oh, not that much. Yeah, scale this down, extrude it down, extrude it out, then extrude it down, then extrude it down, and just kind of make a light bulb shape. Oh. Alright, there is our Christmas lights. You can have different styles and so on. You can look at some reference, but this is going to be good for us for now. So let's go ahead and add an array here, and let's get rid of this top one and change to the middle one, I believe. Yep, so let's go ahead, change that to about 4, so they're apart enough. So yep, there we go. Let's just increase the count and maybe move this across until we get kind of the lights in a row effect we want. So let's apply that, and actually I'm going to undo that, so Control Z, undo. Before we apply it, let's go ahead and come here, and we're going to go ahead and select this edge loop with Control Alt right click, I believe it is, and we're going to go ahead and go Control E, mark seam. Now marking the seam is going to allow our object to now be unwrapped very nicely and easily, and it's going to apply it to all of these when we apply it, which just makes life a lot easier. So now we can apply this. So just apply that, and now that we have that done, we're going to go ahead and join these two things together. So we have our basic Christmas lights. So what you can go ahead and do is you could duplicate this, and you could apply a subsurf, and then you could come along here and come along here and get that, and kind of make it so you get this nice shape of a light, and then you could bake that to a normal map. But I've found that really, if you're having it in a dark scene, you don't really need that, so it's up to you what you want to do. But really it's not going to be noticeable, so we're not going to have a normal map for this because you don't really need it in this case. So if you don't need a texture, do not use it, because you're just wasting processing power. So now that we've got our base object done, let's go ahead and apply some materials to it. So the top one's going to be kind of a black color, and the rest are all going to be different colored lights. So the reason I'm doing it like this is that we don't really need a really high detailed color. Now you could, and it would improve it, but for most games this basic technique is going to work fine for what you want. So the base color is going to be dark grey. What am I saying? Grayish black, and then we're going to have let's say 3 colors. Primary colors, or not, I don't know, just main colors I can see on the color wheel. So green, blue, green, and red. That is specular. What am I doing? Let's get this last one and change it to red. Alright, so I'm also going to turn off specular. We don't need any of that. So now we've got that, we're going to turn the emit to 1. the emit to 1, and the admit to 1. So let's go ahead and hover over these and just click L, and just randomly select some. You can have it in order if you like. I kind of like the look of randomly selected. So let's grab this. Let's go that. And I'm going to grab this one. Oh, this one and this one, because I want a couple of green ones. So there we go. Now you can see we have different colored lights, and if you wanted them order, it probably would help with being able to repeat it because people wouldn't notice, but it's up to you. So now that that is done, if we go into textured mode and go into GLSL mode, you can see it's sort of working, but we don't want 4 textures because I believe, we need to enable emission for that one. I believe that it increases the drawicals, which is not good for the engine, and we only really want 1 texture. So we can go ahead and break this down just to a texture, only 1 material. And that way it's going to be a lot easier on the engine than having 3 different texture, 3 different materials. Plus you don't have to store 3 different materials and all that kind of stuff. So it's just going to be a lot easier for the engine if we have 1 material. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. And we're going to come over to this new duplicated one. We're going to enter edit mode. And we should see, I thought we put seams on these. Oh, well. Let's just quickly grab these. So shift, alt, right click, and then you can hold alt, shift, right click. I believe it's right click. It might be left. No, I'm pretty sure it's right click. So as you can see, just go along, shift, right click. Now we can go ahead and go Control E, mark seam, grab at the edge of this, Control E, mark seam, and there we go. So now we should be able to go U, and right, drag this across and come across here, and you'll see UV image editor, and they're all kind of small. So what we're going to go ahead and do also is a thing I forgot to do, is we're going to add a bit of edge loops in here, so it will be able to bend. So I think a good amount, just like about that much. So let's just go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So about 7 ups on the scroll wheel, whatever. Just go across. So if you come T and you come to this panel, 8 cuts. You want 8 cuts. I'm going to make it 10 just for a nice round number. So now we have our nice cut up topology. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to make all of these sections a lot shorter. So let's go ahead and put an edge loop there. So now, as you can see, we have edge loops in different places. Now we can unwrap it, and we're not going to have that big long thing, and we have a better use of the space we have. So let's change this to individual origins. And what it's going to allow us to do is when we scale, as you see, each object scales instead of all scaling together, which is really useful because if they're right close together, then you're going to have problems with the bleeding of the texture, because it will bleed over, so that when you're far away, when it does map mapping, I believe, it will kind of take a texture from outside of this grid. And if you have this overlapping, so if you have this like this, you're going to get the texture from the other thing, and it's going to look really wrong, and it is ugly, and you never want that. So just scale this down until it's a nice distance away, and this is going to depend on the size of your texture, which I found out. So if we go new and we have this texture, these might be a good size, but let's say we halve this, so we can go /2, and this is going to divide it by 2, and now you can see it's 512, and the how much it bleeds will be, it will feel like more texture space on here, even though it's the same amount of pixels, but this is less pixels in the whole texture. So these are going to have to be smaller to stop it bleeding. So I'm going to go with a nice small one. We don't need a big one, especially because not many people are going to see this texture. So Let's go ahead and call this cool color. Let's go OK. And we could also go ahead and come over here, new texture, and I'm just going to grab that texture we had. And what I'm doing here is, we could have done this when we created the texture, but we didn't, so I'm going to have to change it here. I'm going to change this to UV grid. And now what you'll see is, if we go ahead and remove all of these, create a new texture, and go into back here. So we want a new texture on here, just one texture by itself. We're going to select that color, and we're going to go into textured mode, and we're also going to make this shadeless so we can see it. So now you can see how this is how these lights are being affected. So there's plenty. I can't see anything today. There's plenty of texture space up here, which is what we want, and there's an okay enough amount on the lights. We don't have like major detail. If you really wanted to, you could probably move this around so you got better resolution on the lights, but this should be fine for me. So let's go ahead and bake a texture. Well, I can't see anything today. So let's go to textures and the bake option. So in the camera option, render options, come down to bake, open this up and switch this to textured from full render. And now we should see as if we also want to go ahead and go Alt G, and that's going to clear the rotation of both of them. Then we want to select this one first, and then we want to select this second one, and we want to go bake textures. And we also want to go selected to active. So it's going to bake from this object, or in other cases this could be the high poly, to this other object. So let's go ahead and bake textures. Make sure we have selected to active. So the one you want to bake to has to be the last selected. So let's hit bake. And something's wrong, and the reason for that is we can't have this texture showing up in our it can't be on this object that we're baking to. The texture can't be on this object because we're baking to it, so you can't have that. So now that it's fixed, we should be able to hit bake texture, and it's showing up. So what's going on? So you can't have this texture here either. So that's the problem actually. We can't have this texture here because we have this on this lamp, because I was changing it before. So we want to make sure that this texture here, this color texture, is not on any of the objects we're baking to or from. So now we should be able to hit bake. Alright, so now we have one. So let's duplicate this up. Oh, wrong one. Let's duplicate this up. Select that texture that we made before that has the texture on it, and as you can see, it is baking the color. So now we've got the color. We can go ahead and go save as, and we can come to our scene, and I'm going to say cut for tutorial, and I'm going to save it in here. So this is the color, because you want to save this, because if you exit out of Blender, this is going to be deleted, and we don't want that. So you want to save that to the hard drive. And so let's go ahead and bake some more. So let's say we want to bake some ambient occlusion. Let's go ahead and select this main object, create a new material, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to turn off all of this stuff. I just don't want it having any shadows or anything like that on it, or it thinking that this object is showing is doing stuff with like mixing with the ambient occlusion and wrecking stuff. I don't believe it actually does, but it's a good idea to do that, just to make sure you're not getting any problems. So let's go ahead and bake some ambient occlusion. So let's go AO, just go as AO. That's fine resolution. So let's go OK. And let's make sure when we're in edit mode with all this selected, let's change this to our AO. So now it's going to bake to the correct one. Let's change this to ambient occlusion. Come back to this, what is this? World type, and you're going to be in Blender Render, by the way. That's what I'm doing. If you want to do in cycles, there's plenty of tutorials on baking in cycles, but Blender Render is just quite useful for these basic kind of thing. So let's go ahead and go enable ambient occlusion, multiply, and samples are going to be 20. I'm going to go 30. Depends what you want. The higher, the better resolution it's going to be. It's pretty simple, but 30 will work for me. So I'm going to click bake ambient occlusion, and also it needs to be normalized. So click normalize and bake ambient occlusion. Sorry about that. And now it's going to be white. And it's going to be from black to white. So now we can come over here and you're going to see a really improvement. So let's create a new texture and let's select that ambient occlusion and let's change this from mix to multiply. And as you can see, the lights are really starting to look quite nice now. So there we go. You might want to tune this down a little bit depending on what you want. That looks quite nice. So we also want to go ahead and save this, save as, image as, and yes, I want to save it as AO. Let's go ahead, and the last one we're going to do is we're going to bake the emission. So we know what should be showing up and what shouldn't be showing up when it's dark. So let's go ahead and come down to emission, and let's go and make sure that this one is selected, and we also want to make a new texture, and this one's going to be called emit, and let's click OK. Let's go bake emission. So now we can come back here and we can go ahead and select a new texture slot, open up that emission, and what we're going to go ahead and do is down here you'll see this emit value, so we click that and we disable color, and as you can see nothing's really happening. So let's go ahead and also turn off shadeless. Shadeless is on. So the reason that this is not working, as you can see the white is covering all the light bulbs, but this is light as well, is because of this. We need to go RGB to intensity, so this is going to turn it to a actual useful value. So let's click that and we can just change this back to white so we don't get that annoyingness. So there we go. So now it's emitting here, and as you can see, you only see stuff on these when there's a light next to it. So there we go. There is our texture. You may, in some cases, want to have a specular map, but in this case, it's pretty fine. So let's go ahead and grab these, and let's go ahead and go enable. What is this? Proportional editing. And we can go ahead and move that down. So now we have some hanging lights. So let's go ahead and create a new shape key. This is going to be the base. So this is when it's going to be like default. Then I'm going to click a new shape key, and I'm going to drag this down. So now you can see we can have a shape key, and then we can kind of have it like it's the wind's kind of blowing. It's like, you know, as you can see, it's going to be like that. So we're going to have to simulate that in animation. So let's come over here and change this to animation. Alright. And let's get this value and animate it. So we're going to come here, and we're going to add a keyframe. So hover over I, then move to frame 100. I, because we want it to be the same. And I'm going to go to frame 10, 20, and I'm going to drag this to about halfway. And then I'm going to go frame 40, drag that up a bit. I, frame 60, drag that way up. Maybe actually put it a little bit longer, so frame 70, drag that all the way down, and then frame 100 will go back up. So let's try that. So let's end frame there. So yeah, it works. Could do with a bit more tweaking, but you know, that works fine for what we want. Maybe you can make it a bit slower or something. Or actually, I'm just going to go ahead and scale this down so it's a little bit less. There we go. That's more of the one we want. So usually you just need to scale it down or something. But that is what we want. Now it kind of looks like something we want. So you can go ahead and move these to another layer. And you could export this or something. I don't know if shape keys export. Or you could just go Control C. Now if you didn't know, this is a really, really useful tip. You can go Control C on object. Control C. Open up another blend file and go Control V and paste it. You can exit Blender and then go ahead and paste it in another scene a day later, which is really, really useful. So you can copy objects, which is useful, and it's on a different thing, so you're not copying random code into your I don't even know what it's called, but you know, the buffer where you can copy and paste and then like paste into the browser or something like that. It's Blender's own copying and pasting thing for objects, which is really useful. So definitely that's a useful thing. If you didn't know about it, it's really useful. Alright, or you could append it. So let's say this is our scene, and it's all good. So let's go ahead and add it always, making sure we have this object selected, always, and then an action, plug this in, and we're going to go ahead and select this key action key. I'm going to switch the length to 100 because that's how long our thing was, and we're going to change this from play to loop end. So this is always going to be looping, and we're going to change this to blend game. So now you can see it's swinging in the wind very slowly, but it's a nice effect. You could have these all along houses and stuff, and your scenes will be all Christmassy. So that is a tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about this tutorial or on other tutorials, or if you would like to see more tutorials on assets kind of things or any other subject, love to hear it. I love to have any feedback in the comment sections below. But have a great week.